What's up everybody and welcome back to another game review. It's been a while, but we're back and today we're taking a look at Hyper Light Drifter by Heart Machine. This is an action-adventure RPG where you play as a drifter, collectors of forgotten knowledge and technologies. You're afflicted with an unknown disease and your goal is to traverse the lands in search of a cure. One of the more interesting aspects of the game is the complete lack of dialogue, but does that serve to enhance or cripple the storytelling of the game? Let's find out. One of the first things you'll notice, and perhaps it might even be the reason you're interested in the game at all, is the pixel graphics. I'm personally not a big fan of pixel art, but I can definitely appreciate the beauty in Hyper Light Drifter. It's undeniably a gorgeous game, and I don't have a problem with pixel art in general. However, pixel art can sometimes hinder the clarity of the game. Unfortunately, the issue is present here because it's combined with other aspects of game design which I'd say isn't exactly synergistic, but I'll go more into that later. This is a sci-fi RPG, and for the most part, the music meshes well with the overall theme of the game. It sounds futuristic and also adds a certain mysterious tone to the game. However, it's not a soundtrack that's super upbeat or intense, and it's not going to do much in terms of raising your heart rate. The main gameplay component is of course the combat, and it's something they did spectacularly well. You have three major actions: your melee attack, your ranged attack, and your dash. The controls are tight, fluid, and responsive, and it reminds me a lot of how Hollow Knight combat felt, except it's 3D instead of 2D. On the same note, switching from melee to range does take some getting used to because it's in 3D, but once you master it, you'll be dancing around your enemy and seamlessly attacking from up close and afar. It feels great. This is a game that rewards skill. Fast reactions and appropriately timed dodges can enable you to take on hordes of enemies at once, and I really enjoyed the pace of the game as well as the difficulty of combat, and can confidently say this is one of the greatest strengths of the game. Upgrades can be done in town right from the beginning of the game, provided you have enough currency for it. Unfortunately, currency is scarce and difficult to obtain, and killing monsters don't usually give you anything. There's no experience points, no health pack drops, and currency will drop only once in a blue moon. Though the actual combat is fun, after dodging and slashing my way through a huge mob of enemies, I was rewarded with very little aside from the satisfaction of my own triumph. You can also tell that Hyper Light Drifter really emphasizes exploration, as there's tons of secret paths you can take, multiple levels to maps, and a teleportation system that lets you revisit areas. The dashing ability isn't just great for combat, but also for exploring. In fact, dashing is essential because the world is made up of blocks of land, and in order to travel between them, you need to dash across. Dashing doesn't use any resources, and they don't limit how often you can dash, which means you can explore places really quickly and hop across multiple platforms without pause. And again, it just feels great. Now onto the biggest issue I have with the game, and that's the lack of clarity. You really don't have any guidance at all as to what to do. That in itself is not an issue if you have intuitive systems and gameplay, but when you couple it with menu systems that aren't exactly familiar, it can get quite confusing. For example, I had no idea what these yellow things were in the beginning. What are these squares for? And why are there tiny dots inside of it with other symbols on the side? It turns out this is your currency, and you collect 4 of the smaller fragments to create a bigger whole currency, which is represented by the rectangle. The same thing applies for the diamonds up here. There's no explanation for it, there's no tutorial, and if you walk around, there's an exact copy of it in the center of town. Of course, after you play a while, you'll realize exactly what it is, but the problem is that it gets a bit confusing in the beginning, and if you couple that with the lack of dialogue and the fact that the only communication you have with NPCs are a series of pictures left up for interpretation, things can get a little messy. And I understand some people enjoy the fact that there's no hand-holding, as well as the fact that the story is up for interpretation, but I also feel like this may turn away a lot of new players. In addition, they could have also accomplished the same things if they had clear systems. Is it really necessary to make currency fragments and then have them combine into a whole singular currency? It doesn't really add anything to the gameplay, and having a simple coin system would have been more intuitive and served the same purpose. I'm also not a fan of the storytelling. With no text or dialogue, the environment becomes an essential part of the storytelling experience, and I felt like I didn't get as much as I wanted out of the world. A great example of environmental storytelling is Little Nightmares. You learn so much from the atmosphere and what's around you. Hyper Light Drifter in part balances it by having NPCs that provide storyboards of what they're trying to convey, and this is a kind of hit or miss for me because sometimes it's evident what they're trying to say, and sometimes I have no idea. Part of the reason why is because pixel art is inherently blocky and unclear, especially if there's a lot going on in the picture. Though usually they point you to a location on the map, it can sometimes be frustrating trying to figure out why. Hyper Light Drifter is an overall solid game, but it's definitely not without its flaws. So who is this game for? If you're looking for a sci-fi action RPG that has a lot of parallels to games like Legend of Zelda, then this might be for you. It's a game with fantastic combat and challenging encounters that offers practically no hand-holding. But if you're looking to be immersed in some engaging story-driven RPG, then I'm afraid you'll have to look elsewhere. Thank you guys for tuning in, and if you liked the video, don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe subscribe for more gaming content. You can also follow me on social media through the links below, and feel free to recommend me games to review in the comment section down below. That's all from me, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.